Hey folks, Steve here with another Fatal Alliances video. Uh, we are going to be doing now what is Impulse number 4 of our turn playthrough from the beginning of a game, a 1914 scenario. Again, apologize, it's been a little while since my last video. I've been just busy with life. I'm sure you all can imagine how busy life can get. So it's been a few weeks since I could record. I am back. We're going to try to get through another impulse, and we'll keep going through this series at least until we can play through the end of the turn. I think my goal here is to try to get through everything. That's going to go through the end turn processing, so production, morale, all of that. I want to make sure we get an example of all of that stuff. uh, and we'll have enough, combats and different actions that you'll get to see a variety of things going on. First thing I wanted to kind of get out of the way, and I made note of this in the comments section of YouTube as well as the comments section of Board Game Geek when I got this uploaded, that there were a few mistakes that I made in the process of the turn, which, in a real life scenario playing this game, mistakes are going to happen. You'll probably not realize that you made the mistake at all, and if you do, it's long after it's too late. But I managed to, because I'm recording this, obviously, I can kind of go back, rewatch what happened, and kind of see what went wrong or what needs fixing. And unfortunately, someone did. YouTube user Depressio Clown helped point out some of my mistakes. So real quick, I'm going to run through those and kind of set things correctly. So in the previous video, I had a unit that went from over here straight into this hex. At the time, I could not have done that because there was a French unit here in this space that projected a zone of control into Belgium, and I would not have been able to move into this space. I would have been locked here, and so I sort of retroactively fixed that. The actual combat wouldn't have really changed. It's more of a positional thing, so I moved that back. Then also, there were a few combats that came out a little bit differently. So I think there's a fight in Serbia down here where the actual combat results was too better than what I thought it was. I did the math wrong, apparently. Not sure why that happened, but a unit that was shattered was instead destroyed, and I put all the relevant units in our graveyard. It was this unit that got destroyed, so another Serbian unit has gone down the drain. There's also a couple of things just in the order of operations then in the attacks through Belgium. So advancing after combat comes before flipping. So in the case where you get a yellow combat result and you only have to flip half the units, that flipping of half the units comes after you advance after combat. So there's a Cav Corps that moved to Antwerp that ended up. I've got units further up than I did before because I had them flipped before advancing after combat, but they could have advanced before flipping, and so I fixed that up here. Then there was a couple of more issues with me adding up the actual combat results to give the Germans a better result. And so what we ended up having here was that though I had a unit that was going to be an artillery all by itself, the actual combat results that I got had it so that units were not destroyed. Some French artillery is shattered instead of destroyed, which is actually in some ways better for the French. And the German artillery didn't have to actually flip since it stayed in place. And then essentially when it came to reorganization, I was able to reorganize more units. So overall, there's sort of, as a result of the combats, the Germans actually did better than what I had sort of ended up with at the end of the last video. Um, I would argue that right now the Germans are in a much better position at the beginning of this video than they were at the end of the last video, just because they have a stronger uh, set of units that are forward, flipped up, full strength, no negatives, and they're not in danger of losing their gains too much here. Other thing that I sort of missed was that when the Germans advanced to take this hex, and I think at the time there was just a lot going on that I missed it, there is actually a French resource here. So now that the Germans have taken that, and I've included that in my notes here of all of what's been taken so far, there will now actually be a -1 morale penalty for France because they've lost a home resource. So they don't lose really anything for Belgium starting to fall to the Germans, but them losing this hex is going to be a problem for them down the road. And you can see, the overall situation for the French doesn't look great. In terms of the rules, like this gap here is no problem at all because even if we had these units ooze their way over here, you can leave a hex that's in the zone of control if you're going into just one more, but they can't move into here. They get locked in place by moving into the zone of control here. So the Germans aren't, they're not even at concern for supply because all of these German units can count, 1, 2, 3 to a home city, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. They're all well in supply, and then once Moltke moves up, they're going to be, they'll continue to stay in supply at this point. So there's really no danger right now along the front for the Germans. Things are going fairly well, but they're going to get harder. So now we'll look at the beginning of this next impulse, which is going to be an Allied impulse. Couple of important things to take note of is that because there were French units lost in home territory, a major power home territory, this destroyed French unit will actually provide a bonus build point at the production. So it's good for us as the Allies at the moment. Everything else kind of is a wait and see. So if I look at, let me look at the turn marker here for a second. So we're still early in the turn. I mean, it's kind of weird to think about, but we still have what's going to be several impulses before we have a decent chance of ending the turn. Though the later impulses will go by faster and faster because we'll have more units flipped that can't take any real action. Our HQ units won't be able to reorganize as much, and it'll just get to the point where a lot of powers are either passing or maybe they're using actions for units they haven't used yet, like naval units. If we look on the Eastern Front, the Serbs are in trouble. We've got some flipped Austrian units, but that said, several of these are probably going to become unflipped, and the rest of these Serbian units are going to get punched in the face soon, I think. They're going to have supply problems. They're going to have just a whole mess of problems here soon. And there's not a whole lot we can really do about that as the Allies. We can try to make it so that the Serbians hold on longer, but it's just a matter of time. For the Russians, I think what we'll end up doing is, we'll continue to move up this front. We're about to take Lemberg, which is an objective city that's going to give us some political points and just general goodness. I think the Russians here aren't going to be able to do a whole lot, but what I hope we can do is move the front up here and not get a historical Tannenberg and maybe punch our way into Königsberg. But it's going to be tough. I think this is going to be, yeah, there's a fair number of units here that are going to put up a good fight. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. The other thing is the UK is on the precipice of joining the war. So the actual count of the Commonwealth entry markers right now is 16. They're going to get to draw 2 at the end of the Allied impulse, and almost certainly, in fact, it's pretty much guaranteed, they're going to draw enough to have 18, which is what is required to declare war. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to get to join the war right away. So, what it's going to essentially be is that once we get the required 18, we actually have to declare war. So it'll be, assuming we get to the end of the Allied impulse, we get our 18 points or tension points. Yeah, not tension points. CW entry points. Once we have 18 of those, we'll be able to declare war. Let me see here. Just looking through the rules just to see if there's anything else that we need to be concerned about for the Commonwealth at this point. I don't think there's any other issues there for the Commonwealth. So really, they're just still sitting and waiting. I mean, they're about as ready right now as I can conceivably make them at the moment. We're going to have some units that are going to do some transport to get into, I guess, potentially Calais. I want to watch out for stacking and retreat issues, but it'll probably be up here and they'll support. So if we look at the sequence of play, we are on the next impulse. So the declare war step. But I don't think there's any more declarations of war that we're going to want to make. Does it make sense to declare war on any neutrals? Probably not. Alright, what we probably will want to do, so in the declare war step we can call out reserves, and I do believe that we have several reserves that we can call out now. So the first of which will be Russian reserves, and now that we're at war with the Germans, we can now call out all of these units that have the GE on them. So first things first, we will look at these militia. And let's see, Moscow and Petrograd. I'll flip them back. They come in flipped. So let's keep them together here. So Moscow. Yep, Moscow. And Petrograd. Which is St. Petersburg, which makes me wonder what was the thinking there, but I'm not gonna give them crap for that. Petrograd to St. Petersburg, and now we have a whole boatload. So let's just get them. Let's get them here, and I will flip just to kind of get a good look at where we're at. Okay. So let's put these guys up here just to watch amphibious landings. Then we have a bunch of calves and let's see, they would be useful down here. Maybe we put them in Chisinau. It's a home city, so they should be eligible to be placed there. We've got a guard division, which we can just throw in here. I think that satisfies stacking fine. And then we'll do this. We'll set the guard units together. And oh, Brest-Litovsk might be a good place for them. Yeah. We'll put them in Brest-Litovsk, and then they can kind of go where they need to go to support the front, and then these guys. We could, well, we just put them in this city here, and they'll go wherever they need to go, depending on the situation from there. Yep, that'll work. And then we ought to have some French reserves, which we couldn't pull in before, because we had to wait until France was actually at war with a major power. So we're going to put the non-reserve militia in the militia force pool. We're going to put this out, and it is the Paris militia unit, so we'll go ahead and plop it down there. We've got a couple of garrisons. And I want to be careful. I'm really worried about the stacking issues that could come into play here. We'll put this one here, and the other one we'll just throw in Ruin for now. Well, maybe we'll put them in Lyon's lines. I don't know. I'm not good at French. And then finally, we got a whole boatload of other units. So, we'll put this guy also here. We'll put 2 here. And then, because I'm a little worried about losing this wing, and then we'll put this unit in Ruin. And we'll aim to get this guy up to the front there. Actually, come to think of it, I'm gonna make this unit up here as well. I think I might be able to hold this, bring these units up and hold this, and I want to make sure I don't get pushed down through, so I think that should suffice. And that's it. So not a whole lot of reserves to bring onto the map, but it's better than nothing at this point. Okay. Now choose actions. So right now, I think I'm just going to have the major powers, so right now just really France and Russia, both take land actions. Well, I don't know. So here's the thing. If Russia's for sure going to take a land action. There's nothing in terms of naval activity that Russia has any particular care for. If I sent the fleet out, we could try to mess with these convoys, but then the other, this German fleet's going to come out, and it's just probably not worth the trouble to deal with. We can focus on the activities up here, I think. Yeah, that just seems the better way to go. So land action for Russia. For France, if we did, say, a combined action, what could we do with that combined action? Well, we could transport this unit to Marseille and help bring in the units up here. Is that worth not taking as many land actions. Um, if we did a combined, France would get 3 land moves and 1 land attack. Well, these guys aren't going to be attacking. These guys aren't going to be attacking. These guys are not likely to be attacking. These guys might. These guys might. Maybe these guys will help. It's not. I'm not 100% certain of how I want to deal with that. So I think France is going to take a combined. I think it's worth it in this case because I want to bring that unit up for free, basically, and just pull them up into out of the Department of Algeria. Okay, so that's what we'll do. So we picked we chose our actions. The UK, the Commonwealth, has to pass, I believe, at the moment. Same with the United States. So, naval air missions. I do not believe we are going to have any naval air missions, but naval movement, we probably will have naval movement because of France's choice to do a combined. Now, if we check the actual activity limits of how many naval moves we get as France, well, we get 1 in a combined, and that's all we're going to need to do. So if we look at, so I'm going to refer to, it's section 11.3 that is specifically talking about naval movement. We're going to make 1 naval move of a task force of face-up naval units. We're going to go from 1 port to a destination, and we are going to be doing a naval transport, which is rule section 11.3.4. So the nice thing is this transport unit is in port with a unit that we would like to transport. It is face up, so when it moves, it can take 1 core-sized unit, which this is a core-sized unit. You may only embark a unit if it is face up. Well, it is face up. It does not count as a land move. So we'll go ahead and just stack them together here, coming out of the port of Algiers. And then once we end the transport's move in a port, which that's where we're going to go, we're going to just go through the West Mediterranean Sea to Marseille. And once we do that, according to the debarking in port rule, which is 11.3.4.3, the cargo will be face up, so the actual land unit will be face up, and the transport will be turned face down because we've effectively, moved it a good bit. Now I'm not sure. I'm trying to just take a quick look at the rules. If that means that the land unit then can't do any other movement. But I think it may be able to once we get to the land movement phase. So might be something worth thinking about. But we'll go ahead and do our sea movement, and I'll put the transport on top of this stack so you can kind of see what I'm referencing here. So it cost 1 movement allowance and 1 range to move out of a port into an adjacent sea zone. So you can see the 4 and the 3, we're going to spend 1 of each of those to come out into the Mediterranean Sea. There are no enemy units that are in range to be any sort of issue to us. I'm just realizing I left Gibraltar empty. Oh boy. So we do the 1, and again, if there was any chance of sort of interception stuff, we would deal with that, but we don't, so we're going to then continue for 2, and I've got a whole mess of stuff here in the stacking of Marseille, so I'm just going to put the transport face down here on top of that stack, and I'm going to leave this unit just because it's kind of congested here and I don't want to mess around with too much. He's hanging out right here in Marseille in this hex. We're going to try to move him, I think, in the land movement. So that's our one real naval move, and I think that was fine. I mean, we're abandoning Algeria, but we got to defend the home country at this point, so that seemed perfectly fine. Now we've got, let's see, naval combat, no. Opponent's naval combat, no. Strategic bombardment. I don't think I want to use any air units for that. I think the only air units that I could use for that would be this slick Muromets plane with the Russians, and I think I'm going to prefer that unit to be used to support land actions. So we're not going to do any strategic bombardment, but ground strikes we might. So again, the ground strikes are either with planes that have tactical values, or are going to be with artillery. So, what do we want to do here? Unfortunately, these particular artillery units are not in range. These sets here. This one is, but it's the only face-up unit in its hex, and I don't like the odds against that unit there. And actually, come to think of it, I should think about if I wanted to use an offensive. And I think, at least in the case of, Russia, I think we will. We want to hit Königsberg. Now, you're supposed to declare this at the beginning of your at the start of a land action. So technically, we should have done this a few steps ago, but I'm not gonna sweat it here. I do think that we want Ivanov to push into the Königsberg region. Whoops. Yeah, don't show me that again. We will want to do this with Ivanov, so we're going to do 3 plus twice his reorg value, so that's 9. We will do that. So I will just label that he's getting the HQ benefit, and I'm going to run out to the offensive points, and so they have 20 to start. They're going to go down to 11. A big play here. Big play for Tannenberg. Or the Battle of Tannenberg for Königsberg. Okay, so getting back to our ground strikes. Now the whole thing is, we could try to power up one of these artilleries for extra ground striking. I do not think that is going to be worth it. Not right now, anyway. I think I'm going to have all of his doubling points go to the actual land combat. I think that's going to be more valuable. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think that's going to be better. Okay. So, no ground strikes for Russia up here. Do we have any down here? No. Not worth looking at anyway. So we'll look over for the French theater. So this guy's flipped. He can't do it. No. Well, this guy could. Then he would be flipped. Hmm. Of course, we could have Joffre try to. Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty tough call. No, I'm gonna leave him alone. I'm not going to ground strike, and we don't have anywhere else that we can really do it. Though it's also, a similar question. Do we want French to be able to do uh, any powered up attacks? And I'm just not sure I would have the numbers for it. 10. Yeah, I don't know. Hmm. Yeah, they're not going to do an offensive. They're going to remain on the defensive and maybe let the Germans run out of steam. That's maybe the best shot I can go with, at least for the moment. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. It's tough because you only get so many points, right? You've only got so many, and oh boy, we've got 10. So as soon as we use a French offensive, and if we use Joffre for that, I mean that's it. We're out of points. Um, and I think I'd rather use Joffre to do a bunch of reorg, and then flip them again, and then reorg again to make sure all of our units are tip-top shape, hoping that the Germans kind of smash into the defensive line here. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so rail movement. Interesting. So the French, with the action that they took, would get, let's see, one rail move. And honestly, I don't know. Well, I guess we could rail. We could rail this unit, couldn't we? That might be better because he's only going to move what? One, two. Yeah, we would need to rail him. Need to rail him up. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna do that. Yep, we're gonna rail him. Sorry, I just sneezed in your ear. I apologize for that. I was trying to get to the mute button, but I couldn't help myself. So I'm really sorry. I'm sorry, guys. Oh man, I feel so bad. Um, Jeez, I hope that didn't blow out your eardrums. Okay, so we're gonna rail this guy to. Um, it's got to be a station. Okay, I think knowing that these guys are sort of flipped, yeah, it's got to be a when you do a rail move like this, you have to go from a station, which I'm in. I'm in a city port of Marseille. You have to go to another city hex, a port hex, or a hex with an HQ. Um, And I think I'm going to send it to Joffre then. He's going to go to Joffre's hex. He's going to flip, because when they're done moving, they have to flip and turn face down. But you can see in just this one action, we took a unit from Algiers, shipped them to Marseille, and then they railed all the way up to here. So that's pretty quick. I'm pretty sure that was all legal because of the unit starting in the port with the transport. It didn't have to turn face down, and then being face up, it could rail transport. The Russians are going to get a few rail transports, but I'm not sure they actually have any units that they're going to want to rail at this point. I think we vacated a lot of areas. Yeah, and I think we wanted to keep a couple of these units around. Yeah. Um, hmm. I'm going to use one of our rail moves to move a unit from Astrakhan on the world map to Kars, because we didn't have any units down here against the Ottomans. I'm going to likewise take another unit, this garrison, from the world map and also put him there. And everybody else, I think, is kind of stuck where they're at. I do have one more division, but I'll wait to put him somewhere. I'm not too worried about it quite yet. Okay, so rail moves are done. Now we got our land movement. So something that got pointed out on the Board Game Geek forums, and this was related to a question about morale, and once you get morale low enough that units can refuse to attack, do you waste HQ benefits, the offensive points that you've spent, if the units that you powered up refuse to attack? Well, it turns out, and this is something that I don't think I've appreciated up to this point, so this is kind of important, that you designate which units are going to be doubled in a land combat. You know, if you're going to get 6 units are going to get doubled because Ivanov has been powered up. We don't determine which 3, or rather which 6 those are, until we actually are figuring out the combat odds and looking up the odds on a table. Which I did not interpret the rules that way, but apparently that's the way it is. So be very careful if you read section 8.3.2. It says, after paying the appropriate defensive point costs at the start of a land action, specify one of your face-up HQ. So you have to do that. But then you may double the combat factors of cooperating land units within range of the HQ when you declare a land combat. But when you declare a land combat, that's when you would check for morale. So there's a certain amount of, I think, errata that needs to be placed in the rules that is not there yet. That needs to change that verbiage a little bit, because you don't double the combat factors of the land unit when you declare a land combat. You do it after declaring a land combat when you are about to look up the combat odds on the table to figure out your ratio. And this is good for the player, you know, who may be low on morale, because it means if that morale, you know, if that attack wasn't going to happen because of morale, you're only selecting which units are being doubled after you figure out if they're going to fight or not. So you don't necessarily end up wasting those points. So just something in the rules that currently is not really there, but according to the web forum errata that is to come, that's when that happens. So we can decide which of these units over here are going to get powered up by Ivanov later. Not right now. We don't even have to. We can just move, and then we can figure it out from here. So let's see. These guys don't need to move. Which of these guys should move? So I don't want Ivanov up here. I want other units up here. So I want to move, I think, this unit up. I don't necessarily, I'm not going to need the engineer right away. So if I just look at the best combat odds would be to bring this guy up and this guy up. And then we would move this entire stack up. These guys are okay. Everyone else is sort of flipped at the moment. I don't think there's any movement I want to make over here. At the very least, we want to hold on to what we got. Down here, we are going to try to move. So to help protect this HQ unit, we're going to slide this unit down. And maybe that's it. Yeah, I think that's sufficient. Over here, not going to move, not going to move. I think we'll have these guys move down. So now we've taken, without combat, a resource from the Austro-Hungarians. So that's going to mean a political point for the Allies. They go from 6 to 7. We're also going to take note that this is going to be turn 1, impulse 4. Russia takes Carpathian resource -1 morale for AH. So this is actually pretty bad for the Austro-Hungarians because they've lost Cernati and a resource. We'll go ahead and move these guys up a little tiny bit. And then finally, we will move these guys up to take Lemberg. So, we did just take an objective city. So that's going to be another 4 political points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 11. And this is going to be yet another home country city lost. So let me here. So Russia takes Lemberg. I'll get the spelling right here. I believe this city goes by a different name now, since it is part of, I want to say, Poland now. I'm not looking at a current map. Takes Lemberg, -1 morale for AH. So this is going to be a huge problem. You know, and just historically it was, right? I think the Austro-Hungarians historically got pushed back a little bit here because, you know, there is some valuable land and territory here, but it's beyond the defensive barrier of the Carpathian Mountains, and so this is an easy get for the Russians to sort of just stomp up here. And currently, all of these guys are pretty much set on supply and everything else. So this is good for the Allies right here. This is a good sort of setup. The only danger maybe being these guys attacking here, but I think they're going to be okay for the moment. Don't want to move this guy because he would lose, potentially lose his line of supply. I mean, I could maybe, yeah, it's just going to get tight. So no more movement over here. I think that's as good as it will get. Yeah, I think that's it. At some point here, I think I'm going to want to start moving. Well, yeah, you know, come to think of it, we still have one more rail move. I should have moved him up to Helsinki. But I forgot, so I'll worry about it later. I don't think it's going to be a big deal yet. I want to garrison this just in case the Finns get squirrely. Okay, so the movement over there is done. Let's check out this situation. So they're flipped, flipped, not quite flipped, but I don't want to move him. Not yet. I could move these guys up, but then they can be attacked by a whole bunch of guys, so I think they're going to stay here. And let's see. Yeah. Man, it's almost like I. So if I move these guys up, I help protect the resource, but then I could be attacked by, let's just say, 4, 8, 17, and if the Germans moved him up and spent versus 4, yeah, I mean that's nah. I don't want to. I would rather let the Germans have this resource right now than have the French get pummeled and lose these units. Because I would lose if I lost them here, they wouldn't get bonus build points, and that would be a bunch of lost morale. So I don't think I'm willing to throw these guys to the fire yet. I think I just want to hold on to our positions here for the moment. So I think movement is done. Land movement, I should say. Okay. Debark land units at sea. Well, we didn't have any units at sea. They went straight from port to port. We don't have any invasions, but we do have some land combats. So, just right away, I want to look at the French area for land combats. I'm not sure we have any that I'm going to want to do. Oh, and okay, you know what? I think I am gonna move. I'm gonna move Joffre down 1, and the reason why I'm doing that is I want to make sure that all of these guys. Well, okay, wait, never mind. Sorry, I want it. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All these guys are in range of Joffre for reorganization, so I don't need to move him. Never mind. Okay, so land combats for France. I don't think we're going to have any. Just nothing is worth attacking at this point. Not that we even have many units that could. Maybe here they would have 9, 5. Yeah, I don't think we've got any ability to attack back this turn. Again, I'm going to be using Joffre at the end of this impulse to reorganize these units so they can defend better. And then potentially get Joffre flipped back again so that he can continue doing what he needs to do and hold the line until we can get more units up. I'm really worried that France might just collapse, but we'll see. Maybe home by Christmas. Okay, let's see here. And when I do go, so when I reorg with Joffre at the end of this impulse, he'll be flipped. I'm going to flip him back on the next allied impulse, and it's going to cost 4 offensive points. We'll have 10, so that's going to cost almost half of our offensive points. But we just have to do that. That's the best we can do. You know, it's funny, knowing that I didn't do really any land actions, I probably should have taken maybe a naval move or something. But I don't know. I got that unit up here. Can I even do a rail move with a naval move? No. Okay. Well, it worked out. Okay. Combined was good enough. It's what we needed to do. Okay, so now over here with the Russians and the Serbians simply do not have the ability to do much more. And the interesting thing is because Russia can specify one HQ. Let's see. I guess I could have made the Russians could have made this HQ flip, and it wouldn't have costed that much. And they've got, yeah, they've got enough points for it too. And they're allowed to do it. So I think I'm just going to retroactively say they did that because there's no reason not to. I want to keep these guys all alive long enough so it would have cost 2 offensive points to reorganize a unit, and you can do this separately from an HQ unit getting benefits to power up other units. Just as a separate thing, I've spent O points on flipping this HQ unit, and the reason why I'm doing that is to make sure that the Austrians don't get any more bonuses attacking this hex, and that I can potentially, if I wanted to, try to do some other squirrely things with the Serbians. So that I'll say I did that, but unfortunately I do not think there's any actual actions I can take here to hit back at any of our enemies. So they're just going to hold the line. Now, Russians, we'll just go from south to north here because we know we're going to do some fighting with Ivanov. 5, 9 against 6, or I guess maybe it would be 8, 13, 17 versus 6. Yeah, it's not quite good enough odds. 4, 12, 26, 3-1 odds plus 6. Add that bonus. Negative bonus. Plus 5. 2d6 plus 5. Or 2d10 plus 5. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's worth attacking here yet. The best odds I have would be to have these units here all attack here. But I wouldn't be doing it as an offensive. It would be done as a regular attack. If I rolled average, it would be a bit of a costly victory. It'd be a victory, but it might be a costly one. And I'm not sure I want to do that. Well, it's a test game, so let's just do it. Let's just do it. Okay, so we're gonna attack with these units, these units, these units, all here. Yeah, we'll do it. Screw it. Screw it. We're gonna have some action. We'll get ballsy, and then you guys can see what happens when you have ill-advised attacks. and I'll just weep as my guys fall apart. Because it's, you look at the combat odds and you say, well, what if I roll 2 snake eyes, right? If I roll at 2, which is the lowest you can get on a natural 2d10, and then I add whatever my bonus is going to end up being, which is going to be like plus 5. Can I take that much losses? Well, maybe not really, but we're going to do it. So we're going to have this unit fly to observe. There's no combat air patrol or anything like that. It's just simply going to be we will fly him there, the Blériot unit here, and yeah. So we'll have I'm just going to flip them, knowing that they came into this to do observation. The Austrians would use this unit for anti-observation, which is going to net make it a -1 to the die roll. Then we are going to do our ratio, so 4. I'll just lower this down, so 4 and the 8, and I will include the HQ in the attack, plus another 8. So that's 20 versus the doubled 3 here for being in the mountain terrain. So that's 6. So 20 to 6. Those are 3 to 1 odds. Not quite 4 to 1 odds. Yeah, just 3 to 1. So that's plus 6. Minus 1 for the anti-observation that's going on. And let's see. So that's a plus 5. And I'm just looking to double check, see if there's any other modifiers here. I think that's it. Yeah, just the plus 5. Okay, so we're going to do the 2d10 plus 5. Oof, 10. Not a good roll. Not a good roll at all. That's a pretty crappy roll, actually. So, I will have this unit die. So it's a result of a 10. So there's a 1 that is lost by the attacker, and we'll just throw over here in the graveyard. And then all of the other units have to flip that participated in the combat. And that's, you know, most of our front here. So this is actually pretty bad. I don't think the Hungarians are going to be able to like hit back very hard and in any way that's going to cause a problem. Just simply not going to be that much of a danger. But it does mean that this whole front just slowed down to pretty much nothing, which is unfortunate. Let's see the Polish front. Is it? Let's see. If we did an attack here, they have 5. He'd be attacking across a river. That's not good. I need to get one of these engineers down here. Dang it. So that'd be 2, 2.5, 4.5, 7, 11.5, so 12-ish. 5. No, not worth it. 6, 7, 10. Yeah, not worth it. Not worth it. Not able to attack there. So I think our real attacks are going to come right here. And let's see. If we're going to double units, we're going to get to double 6 of them, I believe. I believe that's the case. Yeah, double da 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 da. Twice. Okay, so 6. Okay, so I gotta think about this. I could double all these guys. I could double these guys. Right now, there's 8 combat factors here. If I attacked, yeah, it'd only be 2 to 1 odds. It wouldn't be very good. What I'm thinking is either have this stack attack just this stack, even if they're powered up, and try to hurt the HQ unit here. But I don't think I can bring enough firepower to bear to do that. If I doubled everything, I would only have 20 combat factors against 8, which, you know, you figures basically 2 to 1 odds. You get a plus 4 or 5. Probably minus 1 for observation because of these units, and it doesn't. It's not a safe roll, and I don't want to lose track here because it's already pretty bad. If an attack with these guys fail and they flip, then they can be counterattacked by these guys, and these guys. And you can say goodbye to those units probably. So I think it just makes the most sense to just power up these units for an attack on this hex alone. And what I want to do, let's just try to maximize our firepower here, is we will provide benefits. I'll make this really easy. I'm going to provide 2, 4, 6 benefits to all the corps, but not the divisions. So I won't mark them. We'll just know that we're doing that. I will fly this unit to do what do you call it? Observation. So I will go ahead and flip that unit. This unit will be doing its own observation, anti-observation, so there will be a -1 to the die roll. And then we'll calculate our combat odds here. So 17 from the first hex, then is that 19? 19 in the second hex, and then another 16. Ooh-wee. This better work. this better work. This better work. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, this better work. So, okay. Let's see, what's our total there? It's quite a bit, isn't it? 15. Holy cow. Okay. 52? Is that 52? Oh my gosh, I can't do math. Don't judge me. 52. Okay, I'm right. Okay. I'm good at math. Alright, 52, which is insane, by the way, right? And most of it's because we've powered up pretty strong cores. So the 4, those 2 are each really 8, so 16 plus the engineer 17, and all the rest. So this is a pretty powerful stack against a 9. Only a 9. Yeah, this is going to be pretty wicked. I mean, this is 5-to-1 odds. Almost, this is really like a +11 if we use fractional odds. Because it's almost 6-to-1 odds. So it's like +11, -1 for the observation status, so +10. But because there is an engineer involved, that would be back to being a +11, essentially. Oh, but there's a river here. Okay. Dang. Alright. It's fine. So, that changes it a little bit. So this first hex is actually not quite as good. So the engineer can provide a bonus to one of the units. So it's really 8, 12, 15. Yeah. Doubled, but yeah, 8, 12, 15 instead of 17. I don't think that changes our decision making here, right? So the engineer is able to ignore the division of the river for one of the units that it's with. So we'll say the second guard corps, right? Second guard cavalry. So that's it stays 8. The other one is double just to 4. So 8 and 4 is 12. So now it's 13. 13. 8 for 12, 13. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering. I was saying 15 for a second, and that was just wrong. Okay. So it's actually not as good, right? That's now because we're losing out on 4 of those points. It's 48 to 9, which isn't quite as good, but it's still pretty much. Um, yeah, it's still 5 to 1. So plus 10. Da, 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 da. The observations. Yeah. So it's plus 10 for the odds, minus 1 because we observed, but they also observed, and then we get another plus 1 because there is an attacking engineer, so that leaves us with a plus 10. I think that's all that we have. Now there was a question of whether or not the Germans would have wanted to lend HQ support. What's their leader? Okay, so at 2. I'm not sure that Ivanov is actually in range to provide a bonus. Yeah, let me see here. So I can't include Ivanov because he's not one of the units attacking the hex. But if I might just have to eat this one. I could provide bonus with Ruprecht, but I think doing so is a waste of a HQ flip. So we're just gonna. I think this is. Yeah, the Germans are just gonna have to take this one, and it's gonna hurt. I think. I think I'm gonna roll well. I think that's what's gonna happen. Okay. Sorry for this is taking so long, guys. Just trying to make decisions and explain as I go. 2d10. It's a 22. Yeah, 22. All right. So, first things first. The units here are eliminated. Both are eliminated. And I'll make the Baltic Sea the graveyard over here. Both are eliminated. And because this unit was lost, it was a major power core lost in home territory. The Germans are going to get a build point back for that. So that, yeah, and any other units would be shattered, but I think this unit is going to get overrun potentially. So we're gonna wait to see about that. So I'm just gonna put them here for the moment. Now we advance after combat, and what I would like to have happen here is the cavalry advance after combat without flipping. Artillery can never advance after combat. We do lose. Lose half a unit, which could be a division. Which in this case kind of sucks because I don't really want to lose any of our divisions. Let me see if I have to take it on the engineer. I might have to. As soon as I can find my rules for engineers. Okay. They must suffer the first loss. Ugh, okay. Well, we just lost an engineer unit, which is unfortunate. Fortunately, we have another one over here for later when it comes to crossing other rivers. So we'll just eat that one here. So these will advance without flipping, and then we do have a case where we have to have half rounded up do not have to flip. So half the remaining units do not have to flip. Well, out of the remaining units, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if 8 don't have to, or at 4 don't have to, we need 4 that will flip. So This entire stack here can flip. They're not in danger of anything. Try to get this. Boom. And then we will go ahead and have this artillery flip, I think. It's one of the things that isn't super clear to me. You know, they talk about half their attacking units are not turned face down. Is a division a unit? Because it makes sense to flip the divisions before you flip the corps, but the rules don't get any more specific than that, so I'm not going to worry about it. So we have made a gain. Now, it's not a huge gain. We haven't taken Königsberg yet. That is the next hex over, but we have made a good show of it. I do think that this unit gets to, because it ran observation, it does get to rebase. I'm going to double check that here. Let me find. So we have it. We had it run ground support, meaning observation. And of course, I'm looking in the wrong file. Return all remaining aircraft to base and turn da 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 da. Okay, so this unit would have rebased already. So we would have him maybe rebase, we'll say, to Danzig. Okay. Alright. I think that is all that we can really muster here, but that was a fairly good, that was a good combat. It went well, and we put the hurtin' on. Yeah, we put the hurtin' on him, so that was good. Okay. Yeah, 22. Ugh, if we had just gotten a little bit better, that would have worked out really well for the Russians. Okay, so now that our land combats are done, any other air rebases at this point, I don't think we're going to have any air rebases. The only real option would be for this unit, but it's got enough range that I think it'll be fine. So now we get to reorganization. Alright, so it costs 1 reorganization point to reorganize a land unit. So I'm looking at 11.14 for reorganization. And so Joffre can flip 3 units. And you know what? Yeah, geez, I made some mistakes here, guys. So I was figuring I could flip units in this stack, but I actually cannot because where Joffre is, because it's 1, 2, 3, but apparently reorganization, the path to the unit is limited in the same way as supply paths, which I believe means it's impacted by zones of control. So in order for me to draw an appropriate path, I would have had to move Joffre. But I think if I just do that now as a correction, it doesn't hurt anything. So we'll do that, and the units that I'm going to flip, so I'm going to flip one of them here, and then the other two are going to be in this stack. Yeah, I think that'll do. And then because I've done that, I'm going to turn Joffre face down. Now the only danger in me doing this is if I, as the Germans, decided, oh, I'm going to ooze my way down here like this. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Ugh, God. Okay. Because imagine if that was the case, right? I mean, if I had done that, flip down, next impulse, we do something like this. Well, these guys are now cut out of supply. These guys can still trace back to supply. And we just completely annihilate these guys. Ugh. Yeah, I don't. Ugh. So how do we avoid that? Well, I'm not sure there's anything we can do to avoid that now that I'm looking at the situation. Ew. Yeah, that's not good. Okay, well, I think I'm just going to do that because yeah, it'll be fine. I don't think Germany has enough that they could just destroy Joffre, and even if these guys are cut out of supply, well, they would be in supply. I don't know. I don't know. This is a tough call. I think I'm just going to have to do this, and it'll be good enough. If anything, it'll make for a short playthrough if we can win the war on turn one. Okay, so reorganization is done. So we're going to do the last impulse slide. So now we would move to impulse 5. We're still not quite able to roll, but now that it's a -1, if the weather was in such a state that, you know, uh, the well, we're getting there, I guess. I'll just put it that way. But the turn won't end quite yet. Oh, and the only other thing we need to do real quick is we get to draw a few more entry markers for the Commonwealth, which I believe is going to be enough to get them into the war. So we'll find out. We're going to draw 1, and that's it. I mean, we'll draw 2 for the sake of it, but the Commonwealth now has enough entry chits that on the next Allied impulse, the Commonwealth will declare war. So the war is going to heat up, and that also means that once they're involved, we can get into some of the fun Japanese mechanics, because once the Commonwealth is at war with Germany, we can start playing around with the Commonwealth-controlled Japanese units and the German-controlled Japanese units. So it'll be kind of an interesting game mode there. So let's see, we're at an hour and 20 minutes. My gosh, I'm so sorry, guys, that this ran so long. I imagine I'm going to get fewer and fewer viewers as this goes on because it's hard to stick with for hours and hours and hours. I understand. But okay, well, I think that's it, and we will look to cover the next impulse next time. And yeah, thank you for watching, guys, and we'll catch you later.